Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So we have another Ogryn build for you today, and I've been playing around with this one for a couple of days, trying to fine-tune it, and I think I've got it into a nice spot, so I thought I'd share it with everyone and see what you guys thought. So let's jump in and take a look. So, again, it is a pickaxe build because I'm obsessed with them. I really like them, they're fun weapons to play with. And this is a Carsolus pickaxe build, so it's the light pickaxe with lots of big sweeps and strike downs. It's a very fun weapon to use. And annoyingly, I have actually forgotten to talk about one of the best things about this pickaxe in the last few videos, which is the special and the follow-up to it, which I shall demonstrate now if you haven't already seen it. So for me, it's mouse button 4, which is a pull. It leaves a plus 10% damage done to the target when you do it. Doesn't actually show it to you, but it does. Thank you, Stephanie. So, you pull, and then the immediate attack afterwards is a strike down. And as you can see, it's a very powerful strike down, even for the light pickaxe. And when you have full stacks of heavy hitter and head taker or slaughterer, whichever you choose to go with, you'll be one-shotting most crushers if your weapon's rolled quite well. So what you generally want is something that looks a lot like this, with damage and penetration up as much as you can, and crowd control and cleave as high as you can, defense the lowest. Defense is always going to be the dump stat in this. As for perks, preferably you want unyielding and carapace, but as you can see, I'm taking this as it's rolled. I've rolled so many of these goddamn things recently, so I'm just kind of sticking with it until the crafting patch comes out and I can fiddle around with it as much as I need to. So blessings wise, I've gone for head taker and slaughterer, but generally this isn't really good. I've gone with this because I've got thousands of hours in playing this game, and I've kind of know what I'm doing to a general degree. But if you're just picking up the Ogryn or you're not like super confident with it, I would take Slaughterer and Confident Strikes, which will keep you topped up with toughness the entire time. You know, it will deal with that chip damage, which there is a lot of. So something like this. Confident Strikes, 8% toughness on chained hit. Slaughterer, 8% power for almost 5 seconds on kill, stacks 5 times. It's a good way to go, but I mean, I'm not saying don't go for Head Taker and Slaughterer. It's a very powerful way to build it. It's just if you're not used to it, you can get yourself stuck in some really, really bad situations. And I mean, even I get in really, really bad places with this sometimes, especially if you're caught in a very long corridor with lots of gunners. You will be torn to pieces because they stealth buffed them and then just didn't tell anyone. So even with 60% gunner resist, I'm still torn apart. But with Confident Strikes, that will help. Not so much if you can't get to the target, obviously, but I mean, it is a way to go. But if you want to, go for it. Try out Head Taker and Slaughterer. It's a very fun way to build it. And you will just be scything through hordes with very little problem. Especially if you're throwing in the combo, which is with hordes, generally just big cleaving strikes. You're just chaining the heavy attacks through. But when something with armor comes along, you want to pull it and strike down. Not so much on like shotgunners, but it's mostly for rages because they're just irritating, crushers, and maulers. As you can see, even without the stacks up, it does quite a lot of damage, but you do need most of the blessings rolling to get that big chunky damage in. but it's a very good way of just staggering a target. Obviously, if there's a lot of crushers and maulers and bulwarks and all that sort of thing, it's still pretty good, but you can get in a situation where, say, with the bulwarks, you stagger one, but the other one's clipped inside it with his shield up, and that's still going to mess you about. Which is why we've gone for the frag bomb. I will go through the build in a second. This is just generally an overview of it. The frag bomb is there to deal with big hordes of armor, because if there's too many of them, you can't get through them. So this is just there to basically cheat a wave. It's there so you don't have to deal with them. I do prefer the big friendly rock, but we had to make some allowances. So that's the pick. With the range weapon, we're going with the kickback still. I've gone in for Infested and Flak. You can go for Maniac and Flak. Generally pretty good perks. Blessings wise, Blaze Away and Expansive are actually really, really decent at this. So Blaze Away is just good for continuous fire, as with the kickback you can generally snipe out any special in between 1 to 2 shots, depending on what it is. But at more or less any range, 2 shots, and you can clear them out. It's one of the best weapons for team support to actually snipe out specials. But if you want to, you can take the Grenade Gauntlet with Pinpoint. That basically works like the big friendly rock. But I don't have one with Pinpoint on that at the moment, as I mistakenly got rid of my one. So where is... Okay, so Pinpoint targeting. At rank 4, it's 8% power every 0.4 seconds while aiming, stacking to 5 times. Discharges all stacks upon firing. It's basically the same as how surgical works. You brace it, you hold it, and then you fire it off. And at 5 stacks, it does basically the same amount of damage as the big friendly rock does. So this is a big friendly rock launcher. But if you don't have Pinpoint, it's not going to work as well. Shattering Impact does not work as well as it says it is. It says it does 3 to 4 stacks of 5% brittleness, but it actually works out more towards 2.5%, and it's kind of bugged at the moment. So anyone else applying more stacks of brittleness, and it gets very confused. So I would steer clear of Shattering Impact for now. Can Opener does still work as intended, but even though it says 16 stacks as well, there is actually a stack limit. I can't remember what the exact limit is, but it's a lot less than 16. So a lot of this stuff is actually broken back end at the moment. So I would stick with a Grenade Gauntlet with Glory Hunter and Pinpoint, or a kickback with Blaze Away and Expansive. So Blaze Away is pretty explanatory. The more you shoot, the more damage you're doing. Expansive is actually really, really nice for getting a massive melee boost when you've just shot into a big group of things. So as you're closing the distance, you literally just aim at a group, you get the buff. There you go, you get the buff. It's only short-lived, but it does give you that extra kick as you launch yourself into the group. So let's take a look at the curios. They're pretty much exactly the same as they always are. There's 2 with max health, with damage resistance, snipers, gunners, and extra toughness. One of them has extra stamina regeneration on it, with toughness and damage resistant gunners. And the last one is a toughness curio with resistance gunners, snipers, and extra toughness. You don't want to go with 3 max health, because you start walking into massive diminishing returns to extra health. I keep finding the actual calculation for it and then losing it again. There is somewhere on the forums. If I can dig it out, I'll add it into the description of the video. But this is kind of the way you want to go over at the moment. I mean, you could drop her health for toughness, but then again, it's a balancing act, and it's very annoying. Right, so talents. It looks a bit weird, but we're going with heavyweight for the damage against bulwarks, crushers, and plague ogrins. We're going with smashing, replenish strength and toughness after hitting a single enemy with a heavy melee attack. Linchpin, toughness replenishment while incoherence is increased by 50%. You always want to stay together. Frag bomb, as I said, for clearing out those mixed hordes that are just a bit too tricky to deal with on your own. Soften them up, enemies damaged by you take 15% more damage for 5 seconds. Basically everything you hit, the second time you hit them, it's applied. Annoyingly, it doesn't auto apply it with the first hit. You have to hit them first, and then it applies. Indomitable, with Stomping Boots and Pulverize. And we're going to jump down into the middle here and grab Hard Knocks, 1% damage to your next heavy melee attack on enemy stagger. Stacks 25 times, lasts 10 seconds. The larger the enemy, the more stacks are earned. So this is just going to help you deal with Maulers, Crushers, Bulwarks, Reapers, and monsters. You know, it's good. And also firing your kickback into things also applies this. And we're going to grab Batter, inflict 4 stacks of bleed on heavy melee hits. This is pretty much the bread and butter of most melee Ogryn builds. Bonebreaker's Aura, 10% heavy melee attack damage. Melee damage there. Heavy melee damage there. So we're getting a nice big boost from just these 3 points. And then we're coming over here, grabbing Get Stuck In. On activating your combat ability, you and your allies' coherency gain 20% movement speed and also immune to stun and suppression. It's just really good for helping your team close the gaps. Especially, as I said, in the long corridors, when there's 20 or 30 heavy gunners just messing around, pulling you apart. Bruiser, 5% combat ability cooldown reduction when you and an ally incoherency kill an elite enemy. Because we're not running any ability reduction on our curios anymore, Bruiser is actually quite helpful. And if you want to go a completely different route with this, you can switch out these two for these two. So this is going to help your team, as any blocking or pushing you do is going to get things glued to you. And payback time is actually a lot better than people think it is, because it procs even if it's from a blocked attack. So you haven't taken any damage, but you still get a sudden 20% damage increase. And this is up most of the time when you're in a fight. So it's sort of utility versus a small damage boost. So it's up to you. I switch between these quite often. I mean, I've got a lot of other builds sitting about here that use that sort of thing. That same build? Well, I was making sure we're in the same build, sorry. And also we're going to Light and Destruction, obviously. 10% damage reduction, resistance per bleeding enemy, melee range, stack 6 times. Everything's going to be bleeding, so that's good. Dominate, rending, basically 10% damage buff for you on elite kill. And then down here to Implacable, 15% damage reduction while charging melee attacks. You're always charging heavy melee attacks, so you know. And then all of the heavy hitter. So we want all of this because Brutish Momentum helps us keep those annoying stacks up with a few swipes with light attacks. We're not going to be using too many light attacks, but it does help us when we're, you know, moving from group to group, or it's just one target. And then just all the others are just very good. But there you go. That is it's a little bit different because usually we take Furious and the best defense, but at the moment we're dropping those just to try and eke out a little bit more damage as we're going through. As I said, I've been using this build for the last couple of days and it is very fun. You may find that these blessings aren't going to work for you. So if they aren't, drop Head Taker for confident strikes. But if you're confident in it, keep Head Taker and Slaughter and just watch everything fall apart. It's quite an amusing build. So I really do hope you guys enjoy it. And if you do, please like, subscribe, ring that little bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And yeah, enjoy, folks. So until the next one, take it easy, and I'll see you later.